This episode is sponsored by the Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Over the past 4 years, I have had the opportunity to help over 30 women identify, accept, and take action in the parts of their lives where they feel stuck. My heart's desire is to do that with every woman I come in contact with, but the truth is that's not realistic. So instead, I created a prayer journal that goes through that same journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal is designed for you to dig deep and answer questions that will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. The Slang Self-Doubt Prayer Journal consists of 6 sections of journal prompts and areas for reflections for when you want to dig a little deeper and just take your thoughts to another level. Whether it takes you 6 weeks or 6 months to complete, I promise you will not regret it. Head on over to my website at www.feliciawallace.com and select the books tab to make your purchase. If you are ready to find your fears and slay them, go to www.feliciawallace.com, select books, and get your copy today. You're listening to the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast with Coach Felicia, where we empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Slaying Self-Doubt podcast. I am here with Ms. Renee Washington from the Midlife Remix. Hey, Renee, how are you?
I'm so good to be with you. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. I am better than amazing. That's what I've been saying lately. I'm doing better than amazing. We still here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you actually connected with me in wanting to be on the show. And so I usually try to tell people like how I know them, how we got connected. And so I'm always, you guys, I always say that this Slaying Self-Doubt journey is it is literally me. And whenever someone reaches out to me or has someone reach out, it's like, oh, they want to be, and I always like, me? You want to come on my show? You want to talk to me? It always kind of like boggles my mind, but it's not even for me to understand. It's just for me to be obedient. But I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you agreeing to be on the show. And so I am excited about this conversation.
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here too, because your messaging on self-doubt, it will never grow old. And, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that self-doubt can be a motivator if we look at it in the right way. So I love your mission.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So so I'm 62 years old, so I won't give you the whole story of my life, but the Cliff Notes
hold
version.
On, let's pause real quick, because if y'all can see what I can see, ma'am, okay, there's 62 where 62 where that's just where I want to know. 62 where, okay, because you wear that well. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And so the Cliff Notes version of, and see, even saying Cliff Notes, I know people are going to be out there like, what's she talking about? What's Cliff Notes?
I know that.
That's how you know I'm 62. But the highlight reel, I'll say it that way, of my life is that I was in a 28-year corporate career. I was in HR manager where I ran soft skills training department. And I also was an in-house coach. I coached executives, professionals, all associates, and did training, coaching, facilitating, developing, all that stuff. And had a really good career. It was, like I said, almost 28 years. And the past few years of it is when I began to burn out. I was also married for 21 years, and it was good until the last few years. Mm-hmm. And these things kind of happened around the same time.
Oh, wow.
The corporate career ended up lasting longer than the marriage because I eventually got a divorce. But one of the things when you talk about self-doubt, when you are living a life and you are feeling blessed and grateful And then you start feeling these nudges of something's not right. And you start feeling, guilty for even feeling that way, because who are you to feel that way when, life is good? What's going on with you? What's wrong? And so for a long time, I suppressed that. I doubted the validity of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And, as a woman of faith, I believe in God's will for my life. And so I questioned myself for wondering why I was unhappy. And so I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just stayed pretty silent about it. And as I came to find out, that's the wrong thing to do.
Right.
That's the wrong thing to do. And so things started happening. I eventually did say something to my GYN, because I was there for the annual checkup. And I at that point, I was just so miserable that I just blurted out to her that I wanted to quit my job and leave my marriage. And she tested me and came back and told me that I was in full-blown menopause, and I was 45 years old. And I didn't know anything about menopause. And to your listeners, if you are in your 30s, 40s, find out as much as you can about menopause, because it's still to this day something that we don't talk a whole lot about. And mostly what you hear is hot flashes. That's the little joke about it.
Right.
Or that you're
your
losing
personal
your mind.
summers.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just so much more to it than that. I didn't have hot flashes. It was all emotional for me. And I did read a book about it that began to clarify some things for me, because in the book she talked about how, as women, we are typically the tenders, befrienders, and the nurturers, and we get to this certain point in life where we have suppressed a lot of things because we are so busy taking care of other people.
Yeah.
And when you hit this stage where your hormones start rearranging and doing their thing to transition you into your next phase of life, then what's been suppressed starts coming up. And it has to be addressed. So, that's why things like what's been suppressed has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And relationships are one of those things. And it's not about getting a divorce or having to leave your spouse. It's all relationships. It's relationships with your children, with your friends, with, because you are changing.
Yeah.
And so there's a renegotiation that becomes a requirement for you to get to know who you are transitioning into and who you are becoming. And the people that are in your circle, they have to learn how to, be in relationship with you.
Yeah.
And for me, the next thing that happened was I had a mini stroke at work and ended up in the hospital for 5 days. And things clarify real quickly for you when life is literally kind of flashing before your eyes.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about my life and what was going on and what I needed to do. And I ended up really trying to figure out what was going on in my marriage and going to counseling and all of that. I was married to a good person. What happened though was I no longer could carry what I had been carrying in the relationship. And, we were who we were. Yeah. I was, and he was not, going to change. And it wasn't so much about him needing to change. It was just that our paradigm no longer worked.
Yeah.
And so, in the next year, we did get divorced. And that is how I was able to stay in my job longer, because I had to take care of myself then. But eventually those chickens came home to roost too. And I had to deal with what was going on at work. And, I was, driving up to the building crying in my car before I went in. And, I was praying to God to, I had 2 more years till official retirement. 2 more years. And I was just praying, God, please just change my attitude enough to let me not be miserable. Please let me stay 2 more years. And this was several years, after my divorce, and I was involved with somebody else who was then my fiance, now my husband. And, he said to me, because I was like, I'm praying to God and I don't understand why I'm still so miserable. And he said to me, well, maybe God is packing your bags. Maybe God is, and that just struck me. So it was so profound. I was like, wow. Because, we can have in our mind what we believe is the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And I started, thinking about that, and I realized that while, yes, this job had been good, I built a life here, a career, all of that I was changing. I had changed, and it was time for me to move on. And I was so externalized. That's what we do, this job, this, and I was like, no, you've changed. This company is the company. You've changed. And there are probably, 50 other people that would sit in this chair and be perfectly happy.
Yeah.
You're the one that's not happy.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happened was my mom died unexpectedly. And she had a pulmonary embolism and pretty much dropped dead.
Oh, wow.
And it was so unexpected, just blew me away. She was my person. She still is, my mother is all still with me.
Yeah.
But she was, you talked about how I look at 62. My mother was 74, looked the same. I mean, you would never have looked at my mother and thought she was anywhere close to death. And so it was just a shock to all of us. And it just changed how I looked at life. We'll say life is short, we say that, but I really began paying attention to who lived and who died. And I realized how arbitrary it was, that it really wasn't based on what happened to people or how they lived necessarily. That there were people still living that you would have thought would be dead and they were not.
That is true.
And people died that you were just totally shocked about. And so then I said, so, what? So then I started thinking about where I was at my job, in my career, and thinking, I don't, these 2 more years, who knows what I've already almost had a major stroke. Who knows what will happen in 2 more years? Why am I going to wait for that and allow something external to me to decide how I live my life? Particularly since they had changed the retirement criteria 3 times since I'd been there. So it was, just like somebody else deciding to move the needle, and that I'm dancing to somebody else's tune. And so I decided to leave 2 years early. And I'm not a gambler, so I had been looking at my pension and all of that stuff and talking to a financial planner. He had been telling me for the past few years that I didn't need to leave. But at that point, I was like, I don't care what he says. I'm out of here.
I got to go.
I got to go. So I did go talk to him. And I came in there like, can I leave? I'm ready to go. And he was like, actually, you can. And I was just kind of shocked. It was like, really? It's like, yeah, you're in a good position. You can go. So Felicia, I left, and with no plans for the future.
I know that story far too well.
I'm out.
Yes.
So I ended up a couple of years later, because people continued to call me for coaching that I had worked with. And so I had been exploring the possibility of life coaching. I'd been following Martha Beck, the coach who was in Oprah's magazine, doing that column. So I've been following her, and she had a life coaching school. So I ended up in her school, and still I wasn't planning to start a business though. I was just like, I'll keep my skills up. You never know. But I ended up going through and I became a life coach in 2014. And well, that's when I went through the program, and then I got certified at the beginning of 2015. And then another year, I kind of dibbled and dabbled with it. And in 2016, I got really serious about it. And decided to, okay, this is a business. Go all in on this. And so since then, that's what I've been doing. And, I coach women in midlife transition is mostly what I do, but I am, multi-passionate. My biggest passion from a coaching perspective is I want women to get free.
Yeah.
Whatever freedom looks like for you, I want you to live your personal brand of freedom.
Yeah.
And so that's for women. I focus on women in midlife because I am in midlife. It's a state of mind to me. It can be 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, but you are still engaged with life.
Yeah.
You are still highly engaged with life. And, my icons for that now are Cicely Tyson and now Betty White, who lived well into their 80s and 90s.
Full lives.
Like at the time they died, they were still working, still planning, making plans. That to me is living life full out, and you live until you die.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for women.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things a few things that you said in that, the one thing that was kind of for me was like the resounding thing was, your evolution, right? Like you were evolving in your job, in your marriage, in yourself, like everything was evolving into this next phase. And what you're saying of that sometimes we suppress some of the things the thing about it is that there are times where we were uniquely and wonderfully made, right? And so there are things that are in us that we know to be true, but we tend to push that down, overwork it, push it to the side. I'll deal with that later. This isn't the time. This isn't exactly what I'm supposed to do. These are, I still have this to do in this arena. I was actually speaking with someone earlier, and we talked about, we were talking about the fact that we have that historically there's been this mindset that you can only do one thing, that it has to be either or, not and both. You know what I mean? Like it's those things. But when you're evolving, to me, I feel like when you evolve, you should be able to see that it doesn't have to be either or. It can be, and it should be, and in both.
Absolutely. I had a conversation with a client earlier today, and she was in that this or that mindset. And I said, what if you just live and this and that? Because one of the things I tell clients is a decision is not a life sentence.
Absolutely.
It's a decision.
Yeah.
We can change, but from a patriarchal perspective, even from a religious perspective, we are ingrained in sticking to this one thing, like you said, and that you can't quit. And that's why I love Beyonce's song Freedom. A winner doesn't quit on herself.
Yeah.
You may quit a thing. You may quit that. You may quit this. You don't quit on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the constant.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say those two things were the things that stuck out, the evolution and, recognizing that we have a choice. And I think another thing is that we have to be reminded, and I don't think you hear it often, but sometimes people don't recognize not making a choice is still a choice.
I'm so glad you said that.
It's still a choice. You just made a choice not to make a decision.
Exactly. Because that is so true, because that's why I say, yes, we always have choices. And, I will even, push moms, because when I say we always have a choice, I said, you have chosen to take care of your children and mothers. No, it's not a choice. Yes, it is.
It's absolutely
there are plenty of mothers out there who choose not to take care of their children. So you have chosen to take care of yours and to do it to the best of your ability. Choices aren't always easy, but they are always choices.
Yeah. And they're yours for the most part.
They're yours. Yeah. And doing nothing is doing something.
Absolutely. And I okay. So then the other thing that you mentioned was that knowing, having those, the mini stroke and then your mom passing being those things that really, we all have major things that will happen in our lives. It could be connected to the people, it could happen directly to us. It could be connected to, but when those things pop up in your mind, I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is, why am I still here? Right. Yes. And like when you said that, it made me think of my best friend passed away. Back in 2012, I was 32 at the time. And in my eyes, I'm like, I know how I live my life compared to hers. There's no reason why the Lord could have been took me. I know that for a fact. Oh, right. And with her, it was just so crazy. The same thing, was a blood clot. And it happened just like that. And it took me a very long time to like stop questioning God in a way of like, why'd you take her? Yeah. Why did you? Yes. Instead, I started asking, why am I still here? Yeah. What do you still need me to do? Because the reality is that even in her 32 years, the amount of stuff that she accomplished, if anybody was to run it down, she was accomplished. She touched every single person she came. I'm like, you said something about Beyonce's song, She Was Here. When I hear that song, that is her. And I'm like, and at 32, anybody who knows her can say, oh yeah, she impacted me in this way. She did what she was supposed to do. She completed her assignment. That was the reason why he could take her. Right. And so for me, I'm like, I'm still here because I still have work to do. That is my reminder every single day, every morning, every year, every birthday. I am still here because I still have work to do. And that should be everybody else's mantra too. You're still here because you have work to do.
Wow, I feel that so much. Yes, it used to be a little running joke between me and my mom that, if I had some kind of health issue or something, I was like, I got that from you, and I would tease her. So when I had the stroke issue, she said, well, you didn't get that from me. I've never had a clot problem. And then, 5 years later, she died from clots. And same thing, I was like, God, what? Wait, what? Really? Yeah. And like you said, my mom, though, I call her the first life coach that I knew. She was not, because that's what people just came to her naturally and talked to my mom about any and everything. And she was my model for that. And I didn't even realize it, and so, but you are absolutely correct. Now I do. My mother, the day my mother died, Steve Jobs died, and a civil rights worker, Fred Shuttlesworth, died. All three of them died on the same day. And, people know who Steve Jobs is. And, a lot of people know who Fred Shuttlesworth is. Nobody really knew my mom at that level, but in her circle, she was just as impactful as they were. Yeah. And so I absolutely agree that yes. And that is what I strive to, live, in that same way, that the people in my sphere of influence, when when it's my time to go, that they will know that, not only that I was here, not from an ego perspective, but from the perspective of, and through knowing Renee, my life was made better. Yeah. That's what I want, is that I want to impact people in a way that, for having connected, you get something that helps you with your life, live your life better. Yeah. So, because that's what my mom did that naturally.
Yeah, no, that resonated with me so much. And just thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for sharing that with us. So in this, I can imagine that with all that was going on during that transition, and just coming into becoming I see that you are the midlife maven, becoming the midlife maven. Yeah. How has self-doubt showed up in your journey? If you've been listening to this podcast or following me on social media for a while and you're ready to start your journey to healing, or you're ready to confront your doubts and insecurities, there are 3 ways I can help. First, you can download the journal prompt from my website. Use this as a guide to get back on track with where God is calling you. Secondly, you can go to my website and purchase the Slaying Self-Doubt Prayer Journal. Using this prompt and journal will pull out where you are stuck on your journey. These questions will force you to dig deep and find your fears. Lastly, if you're ready to invest in your healing journey and work directly with me, book a 30-minute connection call with me today. This allows us to see if we are a good fit for each other. So head on over to my website, www.feliciawallace.com, to do one or all 3 of these. That's www.feliciawallace.com. Now, back to the show.
Oh gosh, continuously, like, what time is it? Yes. And see, and I'm real clear now on what goals are, because, fear, self-doubt, fear is at the crux of all these things.
Absolutely.
Fear is at the crux of self-doubt. And so now I don't waste my time trying to never feel self-doubt. When I feel it, I'm like, what are you here to tell me? That's, what are you here to tell me? Because, either I'm not engaging in the self-affirming practices that I believe in, or I'm not getting enough rest. I'm not treating my body well. Something is coming up to tell, because that's, one of the things my mom taught me. She said, stress will attack the weakest part of your body. And so if I'm feeling, self-doubt or any type of fear, then that's messaging to me that I've let something slip in, or I haven't attended to myself in the way that I should.
Yeah.
And so then it's about, how do I move through it? How do I move through? Do I need more rest? Have I allowed somebody in my life that doesn't need to be in my life? Am I listening to things that I shouldn't be listening to? What am I exposing myself to from an environmental perspective, a relationship perspective? There's time for assessment if I'm experiencing self-doubt.
Yeah. I love that. Even what you said, your mom said that if self-doubt is, the enemy will attack the weakest part of you, right? And he is not smart. So he knows the thing that's going to get you worked up the quickest. Whatever is going to distract you, whatever is going to knock you off your path, whatever is going to is going to get you off your purpose, that is what he is going to use. And some of that has to do with definitely some self-awareness of being able to know how you're triggered, right? For a very long time, I've shared this on here all the time, that I used to just pray it all away, like, God, please, but the moment we accept that this is a part that's going to show up, it's going to be here, it's going to be everything is not going to be like, yep, I got this, I'm going right into it. Right. No, there's going to be some fear, especially if you are walking in purpose, because it's not from you. So if you can't carry it, you have to have something stronger than you that's going to be able to push you through that. Because if it's that's how you need God. That's how you need him. Because if you could do it on your own, it's not a God goal.
Exactly. And I have a God box. I got that, from this woman book I read, and I have a God box. And so it's always, things that are bigger than me, they go in the God box. Because I used to try to carry everything.
Yeah.
And I believe that's part of the reason why I ended up in the hospital.
Listen.
I tried to carry everything. So now I don't. It's like, okay, God, and I, one of my mantras is, God's ahead of me.
Yeah.
God's ahead of me. I am not leading the charge. God, you're ahead of me. Because when you have, like me, if you have a very controlling nature, you have to be intentional about releasing that control. You have to be vigilant about it, because, and my body tells me, I teach my clients this process called the body compass, which is this, the inner messaging that our bodies are always sending us. We mostly live in our brains, and the brains are magnificent, but the brains will lie to you. Our brains lie to us. Your body doesn't lie. And so when you learn how to connect to that inner messaging, that, you can call it intuition, inner compass, I call it Holy Spirit, whatever you call it, that messaging is talking to you all the time, and learning how to connect to it so that you can marry it to your brain. That's how you, and so, yes, I absolutely am about releasing that need to control. And so when self-doubt starts to creep in, then I start talking to God. I start talking to God, and if I pray the block it prayer. If I'm not sure about a step that I want to take, or the next move I want to make, then I say, okay, God, I'm still moving toward it. I'm stepping toward it. If this is not of you, if this is not from you, course correct me. Block it. Block it.
That is so true. I am the same way. I'm very much so, like, if this is not from you, I need you to make it plain that I'm not supposed to do this. And every single time it is a hard no. You can't, it ain't you think I should? If it's like that, I'd be like, I'm not gonna get it. I can guarantee you, if it's a maybe, I'm gonna go. So it needs to be a no. If do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Exactly. I'm like, make it plain, God, make it plain. Yes. And to detach from outcome, and when I say that, I mean, we will ask God for something, and then we have it all packaged up and wrapped up with the ribbon, the color ribbon, and everything on it.
Oh, we done already spent the lottery money, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. And so now I'm like, this, because I've learned to look on the other side of the desire. So if I say, God, I want $10,000. If I want $10,000, then and I want $10,000 from my business. I want you to send me clients that will pay me $10,000. See, I'm just, because we're taught to be specific, right?
Yeah.
And now what I ask for is, because I'm like, I ask myself, why do you want $10,000? So if I want $10,000 because I want to take a trip, or I want $10,000 because I want to donate to this organization, God has all the resources. God has all the money, all the resources, so if I want $10,000 because I want to take a trip, I might get a call from somebody that says, hey, you want to go on this trip with me? And I'm paying for everything. I didn't need to get $10,000.
Right.
Do that, So I've learned not to be so specific that I block God. I don't ever want to block God. So
we never know how our blessings will come, and you be like, what? Wait a minute, that's not. And I that is so important, especially in this season. And so I remember hearing a sermon last year sometime where they talked about manna and how it didn't come the way you expect for manna to come.
Right.
You expect for manna to come in a full loaf. That's what it's supposed to be, bread, like not green, not something that you have to break down, and wait until it rises and all that, but it's still manna. It's still what you ask for, but sometimes because it comes in seed form, we don't pay attention to it. And then we just discard it like, well, that ain't what I wanted. That ain't how
that
I
doesn't look
it.
Like.
It doesn't look like what it was supposed to be. And then you wondering like, well, Lord, I didn't pray. And then I think I heard this. It might have been a sermon, mate. I swear, all my stuff be wrapped up. But somebody else said the same thing. Like, this guy was on the island, he's trying to get off, and he's like, Lord, get me off the island. And he sent them. Somebody went by with a boat, with a plane,
it's the man on the roof. I've heard that version.
And then he was like, well, I sent you the boat, I sent you the plane. I sent you all the things that would require you to do some work.
But it didn't look like what they thought it would look like.
It looked like what it was supposed to. And sometimes we think that God is supposed to do. We don't have to do nothing
we don't have to. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just supposed to happen. Sometimes it do happen like that. Sometimes it is suddenly, but other times you got to work for it.
That's right. You got to stay in your business. Stay in your business. Do the things that you have been called to do and let God handle the rest. I had a girlfriend who, I mean, really had been waiting 30 years for her person. She wanted to be married again and had been waiting 30 years for this person. And I got this call from her. She was telling me about this guy that she had met, and she would just keep saying these, she would tell me about all the things he was doing, how nice he was. And then she would say, but he didn't vote for Trump. And it was just odd. She's like, he didn't vote for Trump. And after the third time she said that, I said, is this a white man? She said, well, yeah. I said, ow.
Yeah, what did that have to do with anything?
Because the package didn't come like she thought.
She thought,
And so she and to the point where she was questioning, because she really had fallen for him. He had fallen for her, but the package didn't look like what she
thought it was going to be. Yeah.
And I said, now you've been waiting all these years. This man is checking off all the boxes, and you're going to let this thing. And they ended up together. They are married. They have moved to another country. They are living their best lives. And see, she could have walked away from and now we're like, we can't imagine her with anybody else.
Wow. And you never know. And sometimes that's that faith. That's the trust thing that you have to just trust him. So what have you learned about yourself during this journey that you didn't know before?
Oh gosh. So probably the biggest thing that I've learned is acceptance, self-acceptance.
That is big.
Self-acceptance that I am who God made me. Like you said, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I am who God made me. And yes, I continue to grow, change, and evolve. The foundation of who I am, though, I love who I am.
Yeah.
I accept who I am. And I don't apologize for who I am. And so that is probably the biggest thing. I've got this sweatshirt that my girlfriend gave me. It says, I'm not for everybody.
Yeah, that is facts.
Because we can try to be for everybody, right? Yeah, no, I let that go a long time ago.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that as women, that is a place that we have to get to. And I think that is actually one of the parts of this whole slaying self-doubt journey is self-acceptance. You have to accept all of you, the parts of you that you necessarily didn't like that bring you to the woman that you are today. You have to be able to embrace all of that so that you can show up fully. Because otherwise, if you discredit any part of you, that is exactly how you're going to show up. And even with the self-doubt, even with the imposter syndrome, even with the fears, it's okay. All of that is okay because we all have it. And I think, to your point earlier, just like sometimes we think we're going through things by ourselves. Even when you shared about the, early menopause and stuff, everybody they don't know. And we're too afraid to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
Because, what if I'm the only person? But what if you're not? What if this conversation allows for someone else to be able to say, girl, me too. And me too. And then you're sitting in a space where this healing is happening. And so that's one of the things that I know that is the reason why God gave this to me, because he knew I could handle it, but he also knew that I eventually, and it took me a while, but eventually I would speak up and I would carry it through so that other women don't have to feel like they're by themselves and they can share and not be alone in this journey. Even if it's for a second, you have something that you can, resort back to, like to say, like, when I see this slaying self-doubt, I know what that means. I know that it means that in spite of all the things, I can still,
Absolutely.
that is the biggest thing.
And that's so, because the other thing I've learned is the power of connection. And, I was a highly introverted person as a child. I did not like to be around people. I avoided people at all costs. And I still am highly introverted. People don't believe that about me, but it's because I was intentional, because when I was in my teens, I realized to live the kind of life I wanted to live, I couldn't be, all by myself, that we really do need people. And I do think that's one of the biggest lessons from COVID is that we are all in this world together. We are connected. And so, but now what I say is that I'm selectively social. I'm intentionally connected. And I like connecting to people who are different, people from, I think of myself as a global citizen. And so I love to connect to people and be intentional about it. Not, I'm not trying to connect to everybody. Right. But I do believe in the power of connection for the very reason that you said, because we need to share our stories with each other. We are here to help each other get through this thing we call life. And I do believe that there's so much power in connection and collaboration.
Yeah. On top of the fact that we weren't meant to do life alone. If that was the case, it would have just been Adam.
Exactly. Wouldn't that have been a mistake?
Right. Yeah. Like it would have just been, that's not, but even when you think about when Noah had to build the ark, it was two of everything.
2 by 2.
That's right. 2. So it's we're all supposed to be connected. You can't do this by yourself. And so being able to have these conversations, I'm grateful every day that God chooses me. So let's talk about the Midlife Remix. What is that? What do you offer? What do you give the people? I know that your specialty, like you said, is midlife transformations. That's your mission. That's your heart. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So so the Midlife Remix is a community of women, and again, like I said, it's a state of mind. I have the women from probably 30s on up that are in that community, and I have a podcast, the Midlife Remix podcast. Season 1 is out there, and I have I have a monthly coaching salon that I do for midlife women, where they can come in and we talk about a thing or two, and help them connect to what they need for their next step, what they need to move them forward. We do book clubs, and we do different things. And so then I do individual one-to-one coaching with women too. And so that you can get that needed, if you want to take a deep dive and get that needed transformation. So just different things. I wrote a book called Take the Trip: 4 Journeys Every Midlife Woman Needs to Live in Purpose and Freedom. You can get that book on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and all the major bookshop.org is my favorite because it's independent booksellers. But so I wrote that book. It's a little book, but it's very powerful. It's helped a lot of women. So I do different things. And my newest thing I'll share really quickly is, because I do love collaboration. I'm collaborating with another coach, Lachelle Wooten, and we have created this opportunity called the Coaching Council. We mentor new coaches. And so we're promoting that now. It rolls out in February, and it will be a bi-weekly 6-month opportunity for new coaches or coaches who want to develop their coaching skills to come and have a safe place to share, talk through client issues, build their coaching confidence, just do all the things that will help them become better coaches so that they can grow their businesses.
Yeah, I love that. As a new coach, I think that is something that's very important, because when you're doing this officially, I've been doing this unofficially for a very long time, but when you're doing it officially, it's something about making sure that you're doing it right that is so important, that you're just like, oh no, I gotta make sure that I'm doing this, because otherwise I'm not too sure now.
Whether or not and just like you said, that not thinking you have to do it alone and you can't talk to anybody. This is going to be a place where you can come talk to coaches who are peer coaches. Lachelle and I are master coaches, and she has a background in social work, and so it will be an excellent opportunity for new coaches to come and get resources and, again, strengthen their ability to be their highest and best selves as coaches.
Well, I would definitely, y'all already know that information is going to be in the show notes, and I would definitely, I support that. I will post it on my social media because I think that that's very important. I do know a lot now that I transition into this space.
Yeah.
I do know a lot of coaches, and so,
Okay, great. Yes. Share.
Yes. So thank you so much for just sharing your story this evening. Oh, yeah, this evening. And thank you for just being on and just being very transparent. And what I thought was very interesting is, so when I started this journey, I was really like, okay, God, I want to talk to people that are around my age and this, that, and the third. And I recognized very quickly when I started the podcast that people of all ages listen. And it helped me. Like my grandmother, who's 87 years old, would be like, "Oh, Bunny," that's my nickname. "Oh, Bunny, I listen to your podcast," and I'm like, "Really, me, I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so that is just a word to be able to say that, even when you say, like, I know it's the midlife, there's a and with my air quotes, people that say that, and you think, your 50s and your 60s, and your transition could be at any time.
Exactly. I've had college women say, "Oh, we need this. We need to be hearing this."
Yeah.
Because yes, you do need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you understand yourself better, but it also helps you understand older women in your life, and it helps prepare you
for where you go.
Like my mama used to say, keep on
living.
I know. Keep on living.
It may not hit you now, but when it do, you're gonna be like, I'm glad I got that in my back pocket. Thank you so much, Renee. So how can people connect with you? Where can they find you?
You can find me at, you can get on the email list. I send out a weekly newsletter, the Midlife Remix .life. Yes, no, I'm getting my different links confused. Yes, the Midlife Remix .life.
Okay.
And if you are a new coach or a coach, even a seasoned coach, if you want to hear more about the coaching council, it's thecoachingcouncil.com. So yes, thecoachingcouncil.com.
Oh, well, I will definitely, again, y'all, it's going to be in the show notes. That'll all be there so you guys can get connected. Thank you again so much for being on and just, again, like sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.